Okay, Unit 8 test review. So, first off, we got to make sure we have our Inspire. And number one, which trigonometric ratio is defined as opposite over hypotenuse? So, first thing I'm going to do is keep in mind our acronym, right? SOHCAHTOA. This is what helps us identify which trig function to use. So, opposite over hypotenuse. So, opposite hypotenuse over h. That's definitely going to be sine, right? It's the first one, right? Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. That's what the acronym helps us remember. Okay, number two, which is equal to the sine of angle R? Well, here's angle R, and we want the sine of angle R, right? Sine we know is opposite over hypotenuse. Like we just said that in the last program, or in the last problem. So opposite over hypotenuse is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. Now the hypotenuse is always the hypotenuse no matter what angle we're talking about. It's always the one that's across from the right angle. So this is going to be 3 over 5. Okay, all of our answers are decimals. So let's see what 3 over 5 represents. So I type in 3 over 5 and then control enter. Gives me an approximation. Comes out to approximately 0.6. So far we have C and A, right, for 0.6. All right, number 3. To the nearest whole number, what is ST? So ST, this is the hypotenuse. So we need to figure out ST. All we know is the angle, a side, angle and a side. So for trig to work out normally, there's 3 things you need. You need an angle and 2 sides. And you can set up any trig function accordingly. So right now, the side we want is the hypotenuse. And what do we know? We know an angle, 44, and relative to that angle, we know the adjacent side. So really what we're going to use is adjacent over hypotenuse. That's the adjacent and the hypotenuse. And again, if you think of SOHCAHTOA, cosine, right? Cosine is going to be the correct trig function to use. So if we say cosine of 44 is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. So this is going to be 65 over what we want, the hypotenuse, x. This is the problem we have to solve. Now, there's only 2 scenarios. Either the variable is in the numerator or the variable is in the denominator. This one's in the bottom. So we have a nice little trick that when it's in the bottom, you just switch these two. So x is equal to 65 cosine 44. And that's calculator work. So you always want to make sure that in the top right corner of your Inspire, it's in degree, DEG, and mine is. So let's see, 65 divided by cosine 44. 90.36. And that rounds. So we'll round that to the nearest whole number, D. All right, number 4. A skateboard ramp makes a 27-degree angle with the ground. To the nearest foot, how high is the ramp? Okay, so high is this side here. Again, you need 3 things in every problem, right? An angle and 2 sides. So in relation to the angle that they give us, the side we want is opposite. So this is opposite. The side they gave us is the adjacent. Now, opposite and adjacent. Using SOHCAHTOA, this would be tangent. We have to choose the correct one, right? So this is going to be tangent of 27 is equal to opposite over adjacent, x over 32. Okay, so for here, when the variable's in top and the number's in the bottom, basically we bring the number up in front, right? What's happening is that we're multiplying both sides by 32. And then these cancel. But at the end of the day, the denominator just moves up in front. So now this is straight to the calculator. 32 tangent 27. And this is 16 if we round it. 16 feet. Right, approximately 16 feet. All right, number 5. Which angle has a sine of 3 over 5? So sine 3 over 5. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So I want to take the opposite side over the hypotenuse and make 3 over 5. So if we look at A, opposite over hypotenuse. So 8 over 10. That does not reduce to 3 over 5. We look at B, opposite would be 6. Hypotenuse would be 10. And that does reduce. That does reduce to 3 over 5. So angle B. All right, number 6. A wheelchair ramp has a rise from the ground of 1 foot. The ramp has a length of 14 feet. To the nearest degree, find the angle. So this is the first time we've done this, but look, find the angle right away. Anytime you're looking for an angle, there's only one tool that we have. And it's inverse trig, meaning one of these, right? Inverse sine, inverse cosine, inverse tangent. Anytime you're looking for an angle, this is what you have to use. So find the angle the ramp makes with the sidewalk. Figure's not drawn to scale. Okay. So we're looking for this angle right here. So we'll just call it angle A. Technically, the variable that we use for angles is called theta. So that's the unknown. That's the variable. Theta is the variable. Okay. In relation to theta, the angle, we have the opposite, which is 1. And then the adjacent side, which is 14. So opposite and adjacent. This is definitely a tangent situation for opposite and adjacent. You know, using SOHCAHTOA. So I'm going to use inverse tangent, right? Because I have to choose the correct one, and I'm choosing tangent. But because this is a find the angle situation, this is inverse tangent. So inverse tangent. So I know that inverse tangent looks slightly different than normal tangent. But when you go to the calculator, the parentheses prompt you right away to put 1 over 14, right? Opposite over adjacent. So going to the calculator. inverse tangent 1 over 14 is approximately 4 degrees. Okay, number 7, which is approximately equal to sine of b. Again, sine opposite over hypotenuse. So b is here. Opposite will be 6. Hypotenuse over 11. These are decimals, so straight to our calculator. 7 divided by 11 is approximately 5,4 repeating. So 0.54 repeating. A. All right, what is the value of A? If cosine of A is equal to root 3 over 2. Okay, so this problem looks kind of funny, but A is an angle. That's the variable. And we're looking for the angle. We want to know what is the angle. So we have to use inverse cosine. Now, what's happening is really this. To get rid of the cosine, right, I need that to go away. So what we do is we take inverse cosine of both sides. And when you do that, the cosine cancels out and we're left with A, right, all alone. So we go to our calculator, we say inverse cosine of root 3 over 2. And it's 30. 30 degrees. So A. All right, number 9. Which expression can be used to find BC? All right, BC is going to be this red leg. We can call it X. Okay. They gave us the angle, 23. What do we want? We want the opposite side in relation to the angle. And what did they give us? They gave us the hypotenuse. So opposite and hypotenuse. But this is getting very repetitive. So opposite hypotenuse, that's going to be sine, right? SOHCAHTOA, opposite hypotenuse, sine. So sine of the angle, 23, is equal to x over 7.8. Now, the variable is in the numerator. So we just move it up. And we look and see which problem matches ours, and it's going to be A. Okay, 10. Which expression can be used to find the measure of angle T? So the measure of angle T, this is an angle. So you have to identify when you're finding an angle and when you're finding a side. When you're finding an angle, the only tool we have is inverse trig. Again, you can see in our answers here. Okay, measure of angle T. What did they give us? They gave us the adjacent side, and they gave us the hypotenuse because it's across from the right angle. Right? It's across from the right angle. So adjacent and hypotenuse, A and H. Oh, it's cosine. Right, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse using SOHCAHTOA. So I know I'm going to use cosine. I'm actually not even going to set this up because there's only one. If I did set it up, it would be cosine inverse 7.5 over 19.5. And then you'd go to the calculator to calculate the fraction. But it's cosine, right? Logic will dictate that. All right, 11. Coordinates of the vertices of JKL are JK and L. Find the measure of L to the nearest degree. Okay, so this is going to take some work. So if we plot this, -2, 3. So this is J. K is 2, 3. L is 2, -2. All right. What is the measure of L to the nearest degree? Okay, so to do this, we're going to need to count okay, so we're looking for the angle. Looking for the angle, that's inverse trig. So I know it's going to have the -1 in it, but now we need the sides. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this side is 5. 1, 2, 1, 2. So this side is 4. Okay, so 4 and 5. So in relation to the angle, this is opposite. 5 is adjacent. Opposite and adjacent. Opposite and adjacent. Oh, that's TOA. TOA. So I know it's going to be inverse tangent. And I got to put opposite over adjacent. In this case, it's 4 over 5. Okay, so I figured it out. Let's go to the calculator. So inverse tangent, 4 over 5. 38.6. And the closest one would be B. Okay, number 12. 24-foot ladder forms a 72-degree angle with the ground. The top of the ladder rests against a building. Okay, so here's the building. The ladder rests like this, and this is 24 feet. It forms an angle with the ground. So here's the ground. This is 72. What are we looking for? The top of the ladder rests against the building to the nearest inch. How high up? How high? Okay, so we're looking for the height. So based on the information, this is the scenario. So in relation to the angle, we want the opposite side. This is opposite. And then we know the hypotenuse. Opposite and hypotenuse. We're getting pretty quick at figuring this out. So it's sine. Sine is the trig that we're going to use. So sine of 72 is equal to, what's it equal to? Opposite over hypotenuse. So x over 24. But it says that it wants it to the nearest inch. So we have to convert 24 feet into inches first. So there's 12 inches in a foot. So 12 times 24 gives us 288. So really it's this problem, but with 288. So sine of 72 is equal to x over 288. The variable is in top, denominator's in the bottom, so we just move it up. And go straight to the calculator. 288 sine 72. All right, this is approximately 273.9. So we'll call it 274. 274 inches. All right, 13. What is tangent of M? Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So M opposite over adjacent. So 45 over 24. All right, this doesn't match any of our choices. However, let's use some observations real quick. 45 over 24, so the top is bigger. So we can count out A, we can count out B. So if we go to our calculator, it will reduce this for us. 45 over 24, 15 over 8. I mean, had you gone to the calculator first, that would have worked also. 15 over 8. All right, let's keep it moving. Okay, these are going to go quick. 14 to the nearest degree. Nearest degree. So we're looking for a degree that has to prompt you. This is inverse. Inverse has to be. Like with the little -1. All right, a measure of angle K. All right, they gave us all three sides. So really, we could choose whichever one we want. I like sine. Right, sine's opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite over. Technically, if we would have labeled all the sides first, and then we can choose whichever one. So don't be the rookie that labels these incorrectly, right? So the hypotenuse, because the triangle's upside down right now, the hypotenuse is actually down here, right? Because it's across from the right angle, and this would be the adjacent. So no matter which trig function we use, we just got to make sure that we're using the correct numbers. So if we use sine, right, sine is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. So 24 over 51. So inverse sine, opposite 24 over 51. Comes out to approximately 28. So 24 over 51. 28 degrees. All right, 15. Given that the tangent of A is equal to this decimal, find the measure of A, right? If you're looking for an angle, we have to use inverse. So all they gave us was this, tangent of A. So that means I'm going to say inverse tangent of whatever they gave me, 3.7321. So inverse tangent, 3.7321. 75. 75 degrees. All right, find the tangent of number 16. So given tan A, again, we're given the tangent, find AC. So AC, this is what we're looking for. We just found that the measure of angle A was 75 degrees. Right, that's what we found in 15. So we want to find AC. All right, so call it X. What are we given? We're given the adjacent side, and we want the hypotenuse. So adjacent hypotenuse, that's ka. Cosine, right? Cosine of 75 degrees is equal to adjacent 6 over hypotenuse. All right, the variable's in the bottom, so we just switch. All right, we switch these two. This is going to be x is equal to 6 over cosine 75. So 6 divided by cosine 75. 23. So this is 23. Find BC. All right, 17. Find BC. So that's the bottom. So we'll do it in blue. We'll call it Y, so we're not confused. Okay, again, in relation to the angle, this is opposite. And the given, now I could use either adjacent or the hypotenuse. I'm going to use the one that was given because that's the one that's not rounded. 23 is a rounded number. So this is going to be opposite and adjacent, so TOA. So tangent of 75 is equal to opposite over adjacent. The variable's on top. So I move the variable, or not the variable, I move the denominator up and straight to the calculator. 6 tangent 75 comes out to 22 approximately. So it's rounded 22. Okay, we want to find the measure of angle C for 18. Now, we don't have to use any trig, right? We use common sense on this one. Basic is that a triangle has 180 degrees. So if I do 180 minus 90, which is the right angle, so 90 minus 75, because I already know one of the angles. So 90 minus 75, and that's 15. 15 degrees. Right, 180 minus the other two, 90 and the angle I found out. All right, 19. Use the trig chart. Okay, there is no trig chart, but we do have a calculator. So if I use tangent of 32, 0.62. 0.62. We'll round it. 0.625. Okay. Which of these is not true? All right. So one thing, I mean, I would just type these in the calculator and let the calculator determine what's true and what's not. So if I do sine over 30, no, sine 30 over tangent 30 equals cosine 30. Calculator says that's false. So cosine 60 times tangent 60, does that equal cosine 30? That's false. Tangent 45 equals 1. True. Calculator tells us that's true. So, right, just being able to plug things into the calculator. That's what it boils down to. All right, we're almost done. All right, 21. from a point 135 feet from the base of a tree. So when you're doing the word problems, you really, really have to read the problem slowly and understand what's happening so you can get an accurate picture. So we have a point 135 feet, a base from the base of a tree, the bottom of a tree. The angle from the ground level to the top of the tree is 42. So right here is 42. Find the height of the tree. So we have to determine which trig function we're going to use. Well, what we want is opposite from the angle that we know. The other side we know is the adjacent side. So opposite and adjacent. Opposite and adjacent. So let's choose tangent. Right? Opposite over adjacent. So tangent 42 is equal to opposite over adjacent. Now, the variable's in the top. So we know how to handle this. Take this number and move it up front and then go to the calculator. So 135 tangent 42. 121.5. So it's right in the middle. So we could round this up to approximately 122. 122 feet. All right, a forest ranger on a 90-foot observation tower sees a fire. Okay, so let's draw an accurate picture. So here's the tower. Park ranger, and this is 90 feet. 90-foot observation tower. He sees a fire. There's my fire. The angle of depression. So angle of depression. So what this is, you have his line of sight. The angle of depression to the fire. Is 17 degrees. So angle of depression is 17 degrees. What is the horizontal distance? So we're looking horizontal distance between the tower and the fire. All right, so we're looking for this. This is a right angle. Okay, so here you have to understand that if the angle of depression is 17 degrees, that's going to make this 90 minus 17. So 80, 73. Right, because together this angle has to be 90. I'm saying this angle right here. So if the angle of depression is 17, the angle we want, or the angle that we know, is actually 73. Right? This angle right here is 73. 90 minus 17. All right. Opposite is what we want. What we know is the adjacent side. Right? We know the adjacent. So opposite and adjacent. Opposite and adjacent. So TOA, tangent. We're going to use tangent to figure this problem out. So if we take tangent of 73, right, not 17, but 73, is equal to the opposite over adjacent, which is 90. Again, it's in the bottom. The variable's in the top. So the number in the bottom just moves up. 90 tangent 73. 294 feet. So 294 feet. Okay, last problem. 23. An air traffic controller on the ground at an airport. So here's the person on the ground. On the ground, sights a plane at an angle of elevation. So angle of elevation of 35 degrees. So again, so here's the plane. Angle of elevation is you have the person's line of sight and the angle that their eyes make with their line of sight. So this is 35 degrees. The pilot reports that the plane is at an altitude of 4,200 feet. 4,200 feet. What is the horizontal distance between the plane and the airport? So we're looking for this side, this amount. All right. In relation to the angle, 4,200 is opposite. What we want would be the adjacent, opposite and adjacent. So we've done this multiple times already. This is tangent. So tangent of 35 is equal to the opposite, 4200, over the adjacent, which is x. So now the variable's in the bottom. So we have to switch these two. So this is going to be x is equal to 4,200 over tangent 35. Okay, that's calculator work. Over tangent 35. So this comes out to approximately 5,998, rounded down. All right. Hopefully this has been helpful. Again, everything revolves around knowing SOHCAHTOA. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent is opposite over adjacent. And in basically every problem, they got to give you three things: an angle and two sides. So you take what you know and what you want, and those two things are going to help you determine which trig function. And you just go straight to the calculator, keeping in mind that if you're looking for an angle, it's always inverse trig. All right, good luck. See you guys in the next video.